Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Brantford Red Sox Report here on Rogers TV. As always, I'm your host, Marshall Crocker, voice of the Brantford Red Sox on play-by-play broadcasts, and your host here every week for the Red Sox Report, where we take a look in front of the camera, behind the camera, and on the field for the Brantford Red Sox, one of the IBL's most storied and successful franchises. Well, for the very first episode of the Brantford Red Sox Report, we had Chris Ortega come in as a guest. He was our first player. Since then, we've looked at other parts of the organization, behind the camera, the game day team. Today, I have the pleasure of once again being joined by a player today. It is back catch and often kind of a versatile defender for the team in the last couple of weeks. Mr. Cassidy joins us today in studio. Cass, how you feeling about being here?
I'm feeling great, excited.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. We always talk a little bit about your past, your future, off the field, on the field. Let's start with on the field. And for the people at home that maybe don't know you super well, maybe haven't watched a ton of Red Sox baseball and they're new, how would you explain the role you play on team? Again, both your versatile defense, maybe you're hitting for power, for content. How would you explain your style as a player to somebody who's never watched a game?
My style as a player, I like to play the game as hard as I can every single time I'm on the field, no matter what position it is. I like to give the team the best chance to win, whether that's catching, if they need me at first, third, outfield, whatever it is. I've been lucky enough to deal with pretty good strength trainers throughout my career who have made me quite athletic, so I can kind of bounce around different positions. But my main role always is to manufacture runs. I'm a big RBI guy. I like hitting in runs, and that's how you win baseball games. So that's always my goal.
And the numbers reflect that. We'll actually talk about that in the third segment today, about the team leaders in each stat, and you're up there in everything for batting. But let's talk about your journey to the IBL. So you were born in Coquitlam, BC. You played at Colorado Northwestern Community College, where you were named to the All-Region team, and then you transferred to Dakota State University. So we talked about it a lot with Chris, his journey through Tusculum University in Virginia, and playing baseball in different parts of the world. You pick up different skill sets to bring to the IBL. For you, what did Dakota State and all those other stages of your collegiate career do to prepare you for the IBL?
Well, first of all, throughout high school, I was really fortunate to have good coaches who instilled great work ethic in me. And then once I got to Colorado, that was more so discipline, creating a schedule, being up early, showing up on time. And then at DSU, it was a lot more of free play and not as much structured. So it was a lot of what you need to do for yourself, and their strength is player development. And so I feel like I developed really well there, and my biggest strength was developing more every single year, getting better every single year. And then that led me to getting in contact here, and fortunate enough to make it out here.
Well, one of the things that the very first game I called on play-by-play, and Brian Hawley, longtime color guy, and a guy who's been around the IBL for a long time, the first thing that stood out to us is what you talked about, how much energy you play with. And when you were brought in, GM of the time when you started, Jeff Lansbury said, quote, "I truly look forward to watching Cassidy play. He's a leader, he's gritty, and he plays the game at 110% all the time." And one of the first things I ever saw you doing that made you stand out is you're in the batter's circle, and oftentimes for catchers, like Andrew Savage, when he goes up, he's in the batter's circle. He's still got the leg brace on, he's sitting there, he's a little bit just rigid, working on his mechanics.
Yeah.
You were out there jumping around like you got an invisible trampoline under you. You're always eccentric at first base. Where does that energy come from? Is it just your personal nature? Or is that something you specifically try to prepare for off the field?
It's kind of personal nature. I've got 110% energy all day long until I go to bed, honestly. I mean, that's just what I like to do. If I ever feel like days like that where I'm feeling tired, normally in the batter's box, I'll start to jump around or try to get my blood level up higher, or a heart rate higher, so that I'm prepared for my at-bat and I feel more explosive that way.
Well, it's interesting for you as, again, a guy who came in from the collegiate level as a catcher. You were pretty much an everyday defensive catcher, and oftentimes the skill set for catchers is prep and consistency, right? Rather than just pure, being eccentric and pure being explosive. But you've been steadfast defensively in your entire career. In your time at Dakota State University, incredibly, you had a perfect fielding percentage all the way through, which as a catcher, I know, especially in the IBL, this year we've seen a lot of that from every team. It's hard to maintain defensive consistency. Start off for starters, what is it about you, again, is it a preparation thing, or is it just the defensive side of the game you naturally take to more than a lot of players? How do you get so consistent between games?
Actually, it started when I was at DSU. So before then, I was always an offensive catcher first. And then when I got there, I was fortunate enough to have a teammate. His name was Ryan McDaniel. And he was a defensive specialist for sure at catcher. So I got to sit under him, and he kind of mentored me, made me the defensive player I am today. And I just ran with it after that. I ended up loving it and wanted to be better than he ever was. So that was always my goal.
And one thing that's been interesting with that defensive success is, and this will be helpful for the broadcast, because we've wondered the last couple weeks, you've started to rotate a lot. You're not the everyday catcher anymore. And I know you happen to be on a roster with a lot of guys with catching experience, where like Jeremy's played there, Savage came in a couple weeks ago, he's played there a lot. What is causing you this jump around the positions? Because I think you've started a game at first, right field, maybe third, I believe.
Yep.
You've been everywhere. What is the causation to that? Is it a you thing? And how have you adapted to that because of your defense and catcher experience to other positions?
Yeah, it's me thing and it's a team thing. I mean, I caught all 52 games pretty much for us at school with the exception of a few, and then came right in here, and before Savage was here, I handled majority of it. So in all honesty, my legs were pretty sore, so needed to bounce around a few different positions to gain that. And Savage has been great back there, and we got on a little bit of a roll with me playing, a different position and him manning it back there. So all the power to him. He's great back there, and wherever I give the team the best chance to win. And catching is one of those positions that makes you extremely athletic, and so I feel like going over to first base or third base or even the outfield was never really a challenge for me. It honestly just felt easier. I don't think there's anything in baseball harder than catching, except for hitting, but
I cannot disagree. And to kind of segue to wrap up this first segment from defense to offense, let's take a look here. We have a little bit of footage. Let's take a look at your first home run as a Red Sox earlier this year in Kitchener.
Bateman, the runner at first. High fly ball, deep left field for Watt. Back near the track is Kane Plant, and it is out of here. 2-run shot for Cassidy Watt, his first IBL home run. 2 runs come in to score, and Brantford grabs the lead.
Well, there you go. With that awesome moment in mind, looking back, Jack Couch Park in Kitchener, that first big hit, you kind of get the monkey off your back a little bit on offense. With that in mind, what was the first moment in the IBL this year offensively where you felt like either you finally had your moment or you felt like you finally belonged? What was that moment? Was it that first home run?
I actually, believe it or not, I think it was a couple weeks before that when we played Chatham. And I, believe it or not, Jeff looked at me and said, maybe look to lay down a bunt here. And one of my specialties at school was a push bunt. Like, I'm very good at doing that. I've practiced it a million times, and I've gotten quite a few hits this year out of it. But I laid it down the first one. That was actually my first hit of the IBL was a bunt.
Way.
And they always like to say catchers can't run, but I like to prove them wrong. So.
And you've done so all year. We'll talk a little bit in the next segment about kind of your stolen bases, your success in other areas other than offense. We're going to be right back in just a moment here on the Brantford Red Sox Report. Stay tuned for the rest of our interview with Brantford Red Sox catcher Cassidy Watt. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the Brantford Red Sox Report here on Rogers TV. Today's episode joined by Brantford Red Sox catcher and offensive extraordinaire, Mr. Cassidy Watt. We're excited to have him back in the studio. Now, Cass, we always do something exciting at the start of our second segment. We do something a little interesting. Today, we got a game for you. We got a challenge. Now, catchers are always seen as being pretty good processors, right?
Yeah.
They keep everything. You got to focus on the little details. So we're going to play a game I've called What's Your Record? And what we're going to do this season is I'm going to name a stat or a superlative from a game, and you're going to try to remember, if you can, how many of so-and-so. What's your record in a single game this season?
Okay.
Bonus points if you happen to know who it was against, or even more so the date. We're going to go through. Should be fun for you, all right?
Sounds good.
Well, let's start it off with one that I think should be pretty simple, pretty memorable. We're going to do most hits in a game. So this year in the Brantford Red Sox 2025 season, what's the most hits you've had in a single game?
Most hits, I think, is 3.
Do you happen to know who it was against?
I think I've done it twice, and one was against Welland and one was against Chatham.
You are going to be pretty good at this game. You are bang on. Yeah, July 1st and 6th, back-to-back in the same week. Yeah. I'll give you a hint. Most of these are in July. You had a really good month of July. Yeah. You were player of the week, I think, a couple times for the Red Sox. You've been on it offensively. That's absolutely right. We're going to move on to, this is an interesting one from a catcher perspective.
Okay.
Most steals in a game this season. Do you happen to remember the most you've had in a game and against who?
Most steals, like myself stealing?
Yourself stealing.
Okay, 2.
Yeah.
And I think it was against Barry.
That's right, July 18th. So only, I think, like 2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
that might
2
have been the
weeks
Friday
ago.
game.
Yeah.
We play them again tonight. In the future, that game will have already happened. But
Yeah.
there you go. Maybe something you can
Yeah, you'll see some more tonight for sure.
carry over a little bit against their pitching staff. They're very, like, they're some of the best in the league. Like Garces, you got all these guys. Maybe they're just too focused on the mound.
Yeah,
Opportunity there
exactly.
to get a couple. All right, speaking of the base pass, most walks in a game.
Most walks in a game. I think it was 2. I don't know. I think it was 2, and I think it was against Kitchener.
You're absolutely right with 2. It was, I think, a week ago, July 26th against London. That was at home
Yep.
against London.
Yeah.
So I remember that one was pretty walk happy for a team typically good with
Yeah.
pitching. You guys, I know, Tachioka always gets
Oh,
there, but
right.
even guys that aren't usually, I think Savage
Yeah.
got a couple. Like it was a weird night, and you capitalized.
was.
This one, final segue, final part of what's your record? Most RBIs in a game this season.
5.
Absolutely
yeah, it
true.
was against Chatham, and it was the game that I hit a grand slam.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
July 1st against Chatham. So that month of July, every one of those stats.
Yeah.
First of all, you went like perfect. You missed one location. That's unbelievable. And I think, I don't know about you. Would you say if any other teammate did that this season, they could do it all the way through?
Maybe Savage if I had to guess on someone else, but apart from that, I don't think so.
It's the catchers. I was
Yeah.
right. It's just the catchers seem
Yeah.
to have a knack for these things. Well, speaking of, you talked about that game in Chatham, Kent, that 25-3 victory. You talk about your grand slam. Might as well give the people at home an idea of what we're talking about. Let's show the clip of Cass's big 4-run home run.
Here's Pettipiece. First pitch. This is a long way to left field. It is deep, and it is gone. A grand slam home run to put the icing on the cake on this night for Brantford. Cassidy Watt goes deep to left.
Well, there you go. With that clip in mind, that was 4 of your 5 RBIs that day.
Yeah.
Huge game against Chatham, and you guys have had Chatham's number really all season. It's been an interesting
Yeah,
storyline to
for
watch.
sure.
Speaking of, so one of the storylines Brian Hawley and I have talked about all year when it comes to the Red Sox offense is you guys are very, I wouldn't say reliant, but you're very momentum-based. A lot of the time, when it rains, it pours. You're kind of a tidal wave of offense, and a lot of that comes from guys up front in the order, tend to be good at getting on base, and then yourself, Chris, a lot of these guys, more power threats to bring them home with RBIs that you've mentioned. But what is it from your perspective? What is it that causes your team to be so momentum-based where one inning it finally starts to click and it keeps rolling, but some innings, if it doesn't get going, it doesn't go at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the urban saying where, hitting is contagious. So when one guy gets it going against a tough pitcher, you kind of think when you're going up in the box, like, if he can do it, I can do it. So it's one of those things where the more hits the rest of your team's getting, the more everyone will at the bottom of the lineup, or vice versa, even when you're flipping the lineup back over. But I think one of a little hindrance this year has been execution-wise. But I think in those games that we score a ton of those runs, we're pretty much perfect on execution in those games. So I think execution is the biggest thing, and especially getting the runner in from third with less than 2 outs. I think that's the biggest thing in baseball.
Well, we'll keep an eye on the rest of the way. 6 more games to kind of work that execution in. You're 2 of the last 3. I know as of filming, last night was that tough game in Welland. But let's look to you personally. And you've been, ever since you came in this year, you're a rookie to the team in the IBL. But ever since you came in, you've been one of the great forward-facing media presences for our team, right?
Yeah.
You had that awesome Tim Hortons Camp Day video we talked about. Brooklyn was on the show a few weeks ago. And stuff like that is so cool. Getting to go out personally in the community. Obviously, you see a lot of people at post games. What has it been like? And has Brantford, over the course of your first season, started to feel more homely as you get to know the community a little better and go out and do stuff like that cool video?
Yeah, for sure. I think more of those is directly the way that a team can be more involved in the community, especially from myself. I love doing those types of things, from when we visited the schools and talked to the kids in their assemblies, to the Tim Hortons video, to even the mic'd up video at the field. I know all my buddies back home will give me crap about saying how many times I was mic'd up, so go ahead and go and count that if you want to. But all those little things I think is really fun, and I think definitely it makes me feel a little bit more at home when I get to do those types of things and interact with the community and my teammates.
You're also the answer in those the social media clips of who's the most what. You're the answer a lot. You're one of those eccentric personalities. And then let's talk a little bit about the team's place. I know as of last week, officially eliminated from contention for the playoffs in 2025. But then right as you're eliminated, you rattle off back-to-back wins last weekend, right? So talk a little bit about, does that take any weight off the shoulders? What is the team approach, and what are your personal goals down the stretch now that the playoffs are out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it really takes any weight off the shoulders. You still have a job to do every single day. I mean, I know it's not only a goal, like you can't make the playoffs anymore, but the goal should always be to win every single game, no matter if you're in a playoff spot or if you're not. And that's always been my my take on things is, I want to win every single game. Even if I don't play well as a player, I want to win. and that's the most important thing to me. So going down these last few games, I want to win, but if I were to pick an individual goal, I've been a solid power guy my whole life, playing in college and everything, and I haven't really matched up to those numbers yet here. I've been all right, but not to my standards, so I'd like down the line here to, give my team a better chance to win by getting some extra base hits and knocking in some runs.
Well, kind of to wrap up on that very quickly before we send you away, and thank you so much for coming in today. It's awesome that people have kind of been able to see the longtime back catcher. You feature so heavily on all of our broadcasts, but to finally get a sense to put a face behind the mask very quickly. You haven't hit a home run yet this year at home, and selfishly, as the guy that calls only the home games, we need a little bit more this season at Arnold Anderson. Can we trust a home run from you in these last 2 weeks?
I'll give it my best shot. I'll tell you what, I'll give it my best shot.
I hope in the future when you're watching this episode, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully he hit one tonight at the time of recording in that big game against Barrie. But
cool.
You've been awesome.
I'll give you a point up in the broadcast.
I'll point right back at you, my man. I hope it happens. I can't wait. Thank you for coming in today. You've been a pleasure. It's been so much fun having you. We still got more to come on the Brantford Red Sox Report. Tune in just a second. We'll talk a little bit more about the team's season, the look ahead. I'm Marshall Crocker. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Brantford Red Sox Report here on Rogers TV. Today's episode, we were joined by Cassidy, longtime catcher through the entire season here for the Brantford Red Sox, one of our best players. I love having players on the show, getting that kind of harder to imagine experience. Anybody that hasn't played ball professionally, like myself, it's always good to get an eye into the mind of a hitter and get a little bit of an understanding of what you see when you watch a Brantford Red Sox IBL YouTube broadcast. We're going to touch on last weekend of baseball. We skipped it for episode 4. We're going to come back because with the Brantford Red Sox eliminated from the playoffs, they seem to get a little bit hot. Let's put up our first score. A home game that we called last Friday. That game, the Chatham-Kent Barnstormers come into Brantford and lose 10-4. Brantford snaps a 10-game losing skid that had gone since basically the start of July 4th, all the way to this game. My colleague Brian Hawley and I, we joked about how since he joined the team, his very first game was a huge win against Kitchener, and then we hit that slump. We thought he was cursed. Luckily, he's not. Aiden Ryan gets chalked up at the loss in that one, a guy that had thrown a lot of innings prior to that game. He came in with experience. We thought he may do better than expected, as has often happened with road pitchers with the stats this season. He just didn't seem to have it in the early stages, couldn't find the strike zone. Vasilenic was quite good for them in that contest, went 3 for 4 with a run. But for Brantford, we were just firing on all cylinders offensively. Connor Irvin came in, 5 really strong innings. And the big thing for the Brantford Red Sox this year has been longevity in starting pitchers. The relievers come in so early, and the bullpen has been a question. The fact Irvin could play as far into that game as he did was exceptional. Only 1 earned run through 5 innings, 4 strikeouts. Wasn't exactly pounding the zone, wasn't trying to go for strikes. He was just putting the ball on the ground, giving the batters an opportunity to make his day easy. And Jacob Cantor, I've designated as the MVP in that contest, 2 for 5, but 3 RBIs, a run, a strikeout. And as we'll talk about in a moment, he's climbing the team record in terms of walks. The other contest on Sunday, I didn't get the pleasure of calling. We had substitutes Spencer and Matthew, but that game started off pretty hot. We'll show you the clip now.
That ball's sent high and far, and it's a home run for Andrew Savage. Savage will stroll around. He'll return home. And he's got the Red Sox ahead 2-0. A 2-run homer for Savage.
We just talked about off camera, myself and Cassidy Watt, how it's very important to hit home runs early in games in Brantford, and Mr. Savage, Andrew Savage, did just that. That home run really opened it up to start the ball game. The Brantford Red Sox get out hot early, and the last couple months of the season, when they start hot, they tend to roll at home. That's where those home wins tend to come to us. That game, Arbach finally comes back. Nikolai Arbach, we talked about a couple weeks ago in the show, he was designated as off the active roster. He's been part of the staff in the game day more so at the Red Sox than he has on the active roster. He comes back, only does 1 inning. That was a bullpen game for both sides, but he was exceptional. Locked it down, only 2 hits allowed to 2 strikeouts. Looked really, really good. And the MVP of that contest, it's crazy to say, in that 10-8 win against Hamilton, it got a little bit closer at the end, But it's crazy to say that Savage and that big home run starting the energy off hot was not the MVP. Ethan Palos goes a perfect 4 for 4, has 3 runs in that contest, gets the RBI. We talked about it a little bit with Cassidy just a moment ago, the importance of putting yourself in positions for other players to score you home. That's exactly what Palos did coming off injury a couple weeks ago. He has been exceptional since his return, has been great in the field just as he was before he left. Great to see he's healed well. And again, an RBI and a walk, 4 for 4 in that contest. He was unbelievable. So a great weekend of baseball for the Brantford Red Sox after that elimination. But let's look at the big picture. We're going to take a look here at a couple stats for the season and look at how your Brantford Red Sox have stacked up as individuals, who's leading the team in some categories. We're going to start with batting average. Batting average, always an important one. It's, speaks to your consistency. It speaks for your ability as a player to consistently be adding value to your team. And a guy who's done that better than anybody, Ren Tachioka, still leading the league as of right now with 2 weeks to go, 6 more games for the Red Sox. He leads the league in the run for the batting title at .438 on the season. Palos, 4 for 4 helps for him. He moves up to .327 on the year. And a couple of guys we don't talk about a ton as power threats, but are still providing value by being on base for others. Brody Black and then the 2 Lucases, Lefebvre and Bateman. They provide a lot of value on the base pass, so it's awesome they got on as much as they do. Those are the guys to highlight in that category. Moving on to the walks. This is an interesting one that a lot of guys are kind of tied up there towards the top of the board, but a very different number of at-bats for all of them. Jeremy Veilleux, as you'll know if you've watched a lot of Red Sox baseball this year, has been a part-timer. He was expected to kind of take the reins as the face of the offense. Has not been an everyday player, but still is tied for the team lead in walks. The tie in this leaderboard goes to least at bats. So Veilleux, Tachioka, and Watt. Cassidy Watt came in today. Rare a catcher would be so high on this list, but he's been exceptional. And Jacob Cantor, I want to highlight as well. Only 31 at bats, and he's already at 9 walks on the season. He may have been towards the tops in the league if he had played the whole year. Moving on to the next category here, we're going to look at home runs, and this is one that is dominated by one guy, Mr. Chris Ortega, 6 on the season. He's been exceptional. Hasn't hit too many since the All-Star break. We've talked a little bit. He's been in a little bit of a slump in terms of the big power swing, but so is every hitter at Arnold Anderson this year. He leads that one. Shout out to Tim Holick, because Tim Holick, who left the team very early on in the season, only 32 at-bats, he was already at 3. Gotta wonder what that season would have looked like for him. Finally, let's look at the strikeouts. Let's do one pitching stat here as we cap it off. And Connor Irvin ties recently departed for Welland pitcher Pedro de los Santos. Irvin has been exceptional. Again, we talked about the workhorse game he had the other day. Nikolai Arbach as well, he's been great. Colby Klepper and De La Cruz have mostly done it out of the bullpen. And Jorge De La Cruz specifically, I want to highlight, only 15 2/3 innings pitched, already at 30 on the young season. Looking ahead, let's cap off today's show by talking a little bit about what we have the rest of the end of the year in August. Let's look at our theme games, our Brantford theme games, or what you can expect. Some special initiatives here and watching games at Arnold Anderson Stadium. So it's going to be today's game Friday, but when you're watching this, you have Friday and Sunday left. So on Friday, the game coming up in your timeline is going to be Hockey Night in Brantford, that partnership with the Brantford Bulldogs. The Brantford Bulldogs, a team I've had the pleasure of working with in the past. Great crew and a great team on the ice over there. Brantford fans, get out to that game, see some of your favorite players, see some of your favorite representatives, and the two teams, it'll be like a nice passing of the torch for Brantford sports. Finally, Fan Appreciation Day, and you're our awesome fans out there. We want to thank you on that final game of Sunday, August 17th against the Hamilton Cardinals. That's when we want to pay tribute to you guys, all the work you've done, and coming out to these games, making the team feel welcome in this new era of Red Sox baseball. Let's actually give you a proper plug. That next broadcast coming up next Friday in your timeline is going to be against the Toronto Maple Leafs, as always, on IBL Brantford Red Sox YouTube, hosted by myself and Brian Hawley, and then that final game on Sunday against the Cardinals. Let's put up our social media links as well, so you can see where to follow any of our team's awesome content, whether it's the videos like the Cassidy Watt, Tim Hortons Camp Day video, any of our other stuff. They're always keeping you posted, keeping you updated on scores. That's Brooklyn Kerr and our awesome media team here, as well as Nathan Bowles, who's made great video content for us all season. I'm Marshall Crocker. It is, as always, a pleasure to host the Brantford Red Sox Report. We have one final episode coming out next week, and then that'll cap off the 2025 season. For the entire crew here on the Brantford Red Sox Report, I'm Marshall Crocker. Tune into our YouTube broadcasts, and we will see you very soon.